And we're recording. This is Jonathan with T360, and I wanted to, we're doing a lot of content right now with the Tactical Tuesdays and Fireside Chat Fridays, and we're putting a lot of information out there to help brokers during these really difficult times. And I have with me today Stuart Thomas of REMAX Select One, who I have known since, you said 2003, which is
Correct.
A lot of time has passed. We've known each other a long time.
Many years.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to have you on, Stuart, is you were one of the first brokers I saw on Facebook starting to do things proactively when this whole COVID-19 hit, and it made me think, God, there's really, I'm not hearing a lot from brokers. I would love to hear what you're doing, and I thought this could be tremendously helpful to a lot of our broker clients. So, I guess one of the things I want to ask is, what's the first thing you did when you realized these events were going to impact your business? What are some of the first things some actions you took place?
Very first thing I did was I read as much as possible, because it's not every day somebody sends you a letter to hand deliver at your office saying shut down what you're doing and go home. So I wanted to find out exactly what that meant to our business. The second thing I did, which I think is huge, is I have good relationships with other brokers. So I reached out to two of the best brokers I knew in my area and said, what are you doing? What does this mean to you? So I got more of a holistic answer, not just my mind racing. I wanted to get what they thought as well. And after we thought about it, and I got some good answers and some not so good answers. And after getting the good answers, I called one of the other brokers and said, I don't think you're doing things right. And he thought about it and said, you're probably right. So I think I maybe have changed his mind, but it was just good to just talk between, brokers and say, what's your take on it and what are you going to do?
Well, yeah, and this is definitely unprecedented times. I was thinking, I had a conversation the other day with a broker, and I said, well, he says, what do you think is going to happen? I said, I don't truly know, because the last pandemic was 1918. I mean, we have and we're so different from a socioeconomic standpoint that, it's a very different environment. So along those lines, what is something you did that didn't work under the circumstances?
That was the question that was something I had to really think about, because in your mind, everything you're doing is right. But quickly, I realized I made some really good notes here. The first thing I believe that I did was I thought that real estate could change the habits of consumers just because there's a pandemic, to say, well, why don't you just make an offer and buy the home, and once you've bought it, then we'll get you in. We just assumed that consumers would say, yeah, okay, I can do that. And that didn't work. So that was the very first thing that I realized, was they still want to get in the house. So luckily, the second thing that didn't work was we came out with our own disclaimer, because we were at the time considered a non-essential business. So if we were going out of the house to do anything, we were basically putting, a lot of people at risk. So we came up with a form that basically indemnified ourselves and said, if this goes south for any reason, it's on you, Mr. Seller, and you, Mr. Buyer. You can't, it's a hold harmless for us. And that didn't work so well. But luckily, CAR came out with a form. Well, I take that back. They came out and said that we were an essential business a couple days later, which put my mind to ease, because we all knew we were, because providing shelter is one of the absolute essentials that people need. You want food, you want medical care, and you want to have a house. So once that happened, CAR came out with their PEAD form and a couple addendums. So I did my homework on that. And then I realized quickly that most consumers, as well as other realtors, are much more comfortable if they're signing a form that was generated by a third party and not the broker. So that was what really kind of helped us kickstart this again. But the first two things, like I said, was us thinking we could change the way the consumer thinks and says, well, just buy it and, we'll get you in later. They didn't want to do that. So it was a couple days, but it's all worked out pretty well right now.
Interesting. So, what technology and systems are you currently using for your staff who are working remote?
Well, what's interesting is when I thought about that question as well, I thought back to, if this was 1970, it would be a world of difference, because you'd have no online technology. You'd have everybody having to come into the up desk. You'd have everybody working in the office. And if they were at home, there was no business going on. Right. But natively now, first of all, I'm not bragging about REMAX or anything, but the REMAX model is everything's about the agent. So it's not like everything comes through a main hub and then we disperse it accordingly. We don't have an up desk. So everything that we do highlights the agent. So no matter where they're at, their smartphone is their office nowadays. So with or without any third-party technology, just natively, they can do their business if they're at home. And a lot of realtors, as you know, do work from home, because you come into an office, there's nobody here, but they're still working. So we've added things like we've been using BombBomb. That's a really good tool to get in touch with the agents. If you've got something important to say, if you send an email, they're going to say, oh yeah, I didn't read that. But if you're in front of them and you're talking about, here's some new forms, here's some new rules, they're going to listen to it, because you're going to say it pretty quickly, and they're going to, if they see you and they hear your voice, they're going to memorize it a little bit better.
Got it. And I noticed, I think one of your Facebook posts, you were putting all your listings up on Matterport, is that, or doing Matterport?
Well, here's the way it went. The very first thing I thought about was people still want to see these homes. And the way the world's going right now is we take some cheesy photos with an iPhone, or you get yourself a good photographer, but still photography doesn't really give you the feel for the house. So I made the investment 2 or 3 years ago, just because I thought the way the world's going is we're ultimately going to use artificial intelligence to get rid of the realtor, not so much get rid of the realtor doing their job, but when a realtor goes in the MLS and they put in vaulted ceilings, yes or no, a lot of times realtors don't do that. So if a consumer has this picture of what they want, technology is going to get to the point where with high enough resolution photography and video, it can recognize that there's vaulted ceilings, it can recognize the different rooms, and it can automatically fulfill that answer without having to say, well, the realtor didn't add it in there. So I wanted to get the technology that was available right now and make it as easy for people to see the property. And it also helps us win listings, for the simple fact that if I can go to a consumer and say, a lot of times somebody sees a picture of your house, by the time they come in, they don't like the feel of it whatsoever. You spent half an hour putting the lights on, getting the dog out and getting the kids awake and getting them out of the house, and the realtor's in there for 30 seconds with their client and they leave. Why don't we get that heartache away from you, and we can let them come and see the home this way before they actually come in and see the home. So when all of this happened and we weren't safely allowed to let people in the homes, I thought, well, I basically give away the Matterport videos at $100 and something bucks. I just do them for my realtors. And I thought, well, let me step up for my team right now, because I want to support them 100-fold. So I said, every single listing you have while we're on lockdown, I will go and personally video at no charge to you or your consumer, and we will promote the fact that we are safely letting people see the home. And instead of them just buying it based on a picture, they can take a look at the property online, and if they really like what they see, then they come in the house after they've signed the PEAD form, and let's get these things in escrow. And we're selling a lot of homes right now. It's just amazing. Right. I thought we would be dead, but we're still selling homes.
Well, I saw one of your agents, I think, tagged you on a picture with a mask and booties and the whole thing going into a home. He said he was very, very pleased with you as a
I did one today. I've got 4 more this week, but
wow.
Like I said, as long as they're getting listings, I'll go out there and do it. I was just in San Diego the other day. I'm in Torrance on Thursday.
Interesting. So what are the channels you're using to maybe promote this to, like, your older, less tech savvy consumers? Is there a channel you're using?
First of all, it's funny. I mean, my mom and a lot of older people are on Facebook. It's not the young kids' place anymore, and it's kind of like disco. When the older people start taking it, you start saying it's not so cool anymore. So one of the things that I do with the Matterport videos that's unique is I see a lot of people that'll take a Matterport video and they'll plop it online, and all it does is take you to one spot, and then you're supposed to figure out that you can use your mouse and go forward. I go in there and I create a virtual tour of, I walk in a house and I say, well, if I was a consumer, what would I do? I'd walk to the living room, I'd walk to the kitchen, and then I'd look at the smaller parts. So what I do in my mind, and I think this is really helping, is I can do an absolute walkthrough video for the older folks when they get there, and I do it so they don't have to put the button. As soon as they open the page, it starts the tour, and they literally sit there and watch this entire tour of a house without having to think, what do I do? So my whole job is to make it as easy as possible for anybody to see this home, and then after that, they can go and look every single place they want to go.
That's great. That's great. How else are you promoting these? Are you doing it on Facebook ads, or?
Yeah, well, we don't so much do the Facebook ads. It's a tough market right now when you start saying, if you're thinking of buying or selling a home, people start publicly shaming you, saying, you should stay in home and be safe. But because we are providing an essential service, it's a question of how are you promoting that, which is saying, I'm helping people that absolutely need to buy a home right now, and I'm helping people that need to sell it. So just to be advertising, are you thinking of buying or selling, or check out my listing? We're having to, make sure that we're saying the right things. But some of our realtors have their own YouTube channels. They'll put it in the emails and blast it out. But there's no one method to the madness of how they're doing it, because it's such an easy technology to promote that we're also putting it in the MLS, which is unique, because it used to be if you put a virtual tour in the MLS, you were not allowed in the public description to even say there's a virtual tour. They'd fine you for that. But now, because of this change, the very first thing that we have in all caps is check out the virtual tour VT above. So we are making that the first thing that they see before they even read about the property. And there it is right there is a virtual tour. They watch the whole thing. So that's probably the biggest promotion we've done, is the MLS allowing us to do that.
Yeah, great. So how are you coaching your agents and staff? What are you telling them to say? I guess, what messaging as a broker are you giving them, as well as what are you telling them to tell their customers?
Let's take a look at my notes again, because these are good questions, and I wanted to really put some thought into them.
Of course.
Let's see, what do you for the coaching? Well, first of all, for 9 years, I've done a motivational message every Monday. So
I actually get your motivational messages. So
and those don't just go to me; they go to consumers, and I also post them on Facebook. And I don't realize some of the feedback I get until something hits home, and then I get a private message saying that one really hit home, and thank you for what you do. And I've had realtors that will just take what I send and send it to their clients and just make it sound like it's from them, and I have no problem with that. And I had one realtor say she's got about $3 million in listings because her clients think that she's so positive. Obviously, let's see what some of the other things I'm doing. I do a lot of bomb videos to my realtors to try to tell them what's going on in the market. So if there's a new form, the first thing I want to do is say, hey guys, I've attached this form to here. Take a look. Here's what it's about. Because, once again, I just want to be the person that's proactively trying to figure out if something new comes out. They may not know it. So if I can physically say, hey guys, this is what's coming out right now. And I'm always scouring the internet for any sort of a positive article. Like it's not right now a housing issue. It's a health issue that's caused this. So I'm constantly letting our agents know, you're professional. This is going to pass. It's not our fault. We didn't, do some bad loans, and all of a sudden now it's the housing market driving down the economy. We were booming. We were just starting to really get going, and this is it's a short-term issue in our market. Obviously it's a longer-term health issue, but just from being able to do things safely moving forward, right now I keep trying to tell them, just keep positive. This is going to pass, and we're going to be selling a lot of homes very soon.
I agree. Now, have you had any changes regarding business expenses, leases, office locations, anything like that at present?
No. Luckily, I've never had the largest rents in the industry, because when we got our first office in 2003, by 2008, the market was taking a turn, and we were just getting our traction going to the point where I didn't have an office on every corner like some of these guys did. I thought they'd be Starbucks. They'd hire everyone and their mom, throw them in the corner, and then when the market turned, all those people quit, and they were stuck with large office spaces. The only larger office I have is my original corporate office, because we have our escrow office here, but all the other offices are very small, maybe 12 to 1,300 square feet, 3 or 4 offices, a public area, and a conference room with a front desk. So those aren't that expensive. And once again, the realtors natively work from home, so we haven't seen that much of a hiccup with the way we do business.
Okay. One of the things that we're telling a lot of brokers to do is that this is a great time to tackle those technology initiatives or things that they, have been putting off because they've been too busy. Has there been anything like that? Any housekeeping or technology items that maybe you're tackling into the day?
Well, I think the word of the day is Zoom.
Okay.
Everybody is doing, Zoom meetings of sorts, or they're doing, talking with their clients. We luckily, I had decided about 3 months ago, I wanted to really do a digital seller's guide of our office, because when I get the question, do we have a really good listing presentation? And I thought, well, each agent has their own unique flavor, and some are just so good that they really just walk into an appointment and they, I'm here, and the people say, well, we want to use you because you're the agent in the neighborhood. But once a blue moon, even that agent would call and say, do you have something? So we had just created a digital presentation of about 32 pages where they can just scroll through it, and it talks about our office, what we do for the community, you name it, the quality of people we have in our brand. And then about a week later, this whole thing hit. So we had that ready. It wasn't intentional. It was just the way the timing went. So that's been a really good source for us to be able to send that out remotely to a client and say, take a look, this is our office. And now take a look at some of these videos we can do to keep you safe, but to help sell your home. So
Nice.
that's kind of one of the bigger things that we did from a technology standpoint, was we just took it online.
Yeah. Okay. Now, how do you differentiate yourself? You know, everybody's getting bombarded. I've been getting all kinds of emails from I think every company I've ever dealt with, including my gym and everything. How are you differentiating yourself when it comes to the messaging around all that's going on?
It depends what the message is. I mean, if we're trying to sell homes, I think the big word that I've been using right now is free. And what that means when somebody sees the word free is, we are going to do above and beyond what everybody else does for you, and we're going to do it at no extra charge. And this is the results we're getting, and we're going to show them an actual. And I'm not trying to make this the Matterport tutorial, between what we're talking about, but
Yeah.
it's just a huge part of what's been successful lately. But to be able to say, this is what we're doing, and our broker owner is coming out personally to your house to do this for you. I mean, I don't know too many other broker owners that are in their car on a Saturday or a Sunday meeting somebody in San Diego because that's the day that their client can do something. I basically say, when do you want me there? And I'll get there. So that's the differentiation that I don't know of anyone. And I've never worked at another office before. We bought this office brand new, and that's how we met you. But I've never been able to say, well, my old broker did this or my old manager did that. It's just been, this is what we do. And, I do it this way, and it seems to work.
That's great. Now, have you identified, I know you're doing the free, but have you identified other revenue sources, either for for your office or your company?
We had a revenue source back in the day where we were seeing so many short sales come up that we came up with our own short sale division. And that was a huge source of revenue because you had to give the short sales to somebody, so why not give it to us? And it was just a way that we could tie it in with the escrow. And, that was the third piece. You had the realtor commission, the escrow, and then the short sale. But haven't seen too many other additional sources that we could get ourselves a lending division, but I don't want to do that for the simple fact that there's too many good lenders out there, and it's a people-driven business. I tried to do just one thing that also didn't work back in the day was I tried to come up with my own in-house transaction coordination person and charge a fee, but most brokers will realize that their agents all have a different way that they do business. So if you try to say, this is the way it works, somebody will say, well, I don't want them calling my client versus I love them calling my client. So it got to the point where I'd get realtors going, I know I have to use this person, but I don't like them, or I don't like the way they do business. So instantly I learned, well, I would rather let you guys use whoever you want to use and be happy and pay them. As long as you're happy here. But if I'm forcing you to do something you don't want to do, it's like buying a piece of technology and saying, you guys are giving me $50 a month for this when only 3 of them want it. So, I try to give enough good splits to people and say, you keep the bulk of the money and you get the technology that works for you or your team.
That sounds great. Now, what are you doing in the local community or to promote, your company and just how are you supporting the community in these times?
Well, not just in this time, but unfortunately, we just had to cancel a huge event that we do every year. Myself and Frank McDowell, Frank was the founder of Star Real Estate back in 1977.
I know Frank.
Yeah, a year or so ago, Frank retired.
Okay.
So 10 years ago, I had an idea to give back to the community, and I figured if I do it myself, I'll be a recruiter. But if I do it with multiple offices, it's a community event. So I approached Frank and said, how about we come up with something to help support the local kids in the community? Because it's a tough time. It was 2009. I mean, we're talking a bad time. So we did our first event, and we've done 9 or 10 events, and the last 3 were for the Huntington Beach Police and Community Foundation. And these are great events because we'll get about 300 realtors and affiliates and then community people that come to Seacliff Country Club. And we basically, we have corporate sponsorships, and then we also do silent and live auctions and just raise a bunch of money for the community. And we had that scheduled for October this year, and I had to unfortunately cancel it because I don't know what is going to be the rules with, you can only have 50 people in a location. Even if they say, well, you're okay to gather, how many people can gather and how many people will be comfortable gathering? So we're going to take this year off, and we'll be back next year. But, besides that, we've been a huge supporter of the Children's Hospital, which is Chalk. So, our agents will raise money, and when they sell a home, they'll donate something to Chalk. And that's just, we've been a really good, you know, there are certain offices that are all about the political things, and they're all into, you know, I'm on the board and I'm the OCAR. I've always been more into the charitable side of things. So, you know, we've been giving back to the community for 10, 12 years.
Now, with having to cancel this event, are you considering any like Zoom sessions for clients or for consumers to kind of do an outreach? Are you doing anything along those lines?
I would love to say I was, but I'm not going to, for the simple fact that they are not my clients are my agents.
Right.
You know, that's who I work for, and they've got their own clients. So if they're doing their community events, like, you know, the movie in the park type of thing or whatever they're doing, they're going to adjust that accordingly themselves. So I'm not going to try to take something over and say, hey, we're doing this, because it's like, well, you know, the agents are protective and they've got their own clients, and it's like, I don't want to see someone doing something for my clients. So I support my agents, they support their clients. So when it comes to the community, my agents are my community.
Now, as you mentioned, you survived a downturn before. You know, what would you say to brokers and agents who haven't before?
There's going to be more in the future. This, we had just gotten our feet going, and next thing you know, I mean, I've had multiple, I would say multiple issues, but I, at one point, you know, became the sole owner of this office after being one of two people that owned it. So I went through in late 2006, early 2007, you know, surviving as an individual that now had to make the payments to keep the office going. And then next thing you know, the market takes a dive. But as long as you're out there hustling and, you know, doing the best you can, you're going to be okay. But always focus on quality. I mean, I focused on quality associates for a long time, and it's really paid off, because, you know, our agents they were with us then and they're with us now. It's amazing when I say, how long have you been with us? Oh, 14 years. You know, I love that.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. So
but just don't stress too much is all I can say. Is this is, you know, Dave Liniger, the founder of REMAX, basically talks about how many, you know, 20% interest rates in the 70s. I mean, there's always something going on. So as long as you can adapt quickly, don't put your head in the sand and say it's going to go away. Take a look at how can I adapt to this quickly, which was what we did, which was, you know, the digital this, you know, a lot more online things, and then the Matterport videos, and then, you know, come up with the forms. But just, you have to adapt quickly, because those are the people that are going to survive.
Yeah. And the people who don't catastrophize it. I mean, these happen. It's very cyclical. So no, I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you wanted to add maybe at the end, or?
No, I just want to say I've known Jonathan for, like I said, 17 years now, and he's been an absolute resource and a friend. And if there's an opportunity for you guys to work with him and his company, I would recommend it, because he's a high quality person.
Well, I appreciate that. I always appreciate your Motivational Mondays. I read them all the time, and so it's great to catch up with you. I really appreciate you taking the time. So
I appreciate you as well. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, Stuart. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye.